Welcome to this edition of the Locker Room Chat, brought to you by the Tacoma Pierce County Sports Museum. We are proud of our commitment to preserving and sharing the local history of sports in our community and invite you to check out our other unique features on the Sports Museum website at www.tacomasportsmuseum.com. One more time, www.tacomasportsmuseum.com. Hello, I'm Jay Strickers, your honored host for today's Locker Room Chat, and we are extremely excited to have as our guest today on April the 1st, 2024, Gary Wusterbarth, Washington High School, Pacific Lutheran University, Steilacoom High School basketball coach, and tennis top chair umpire. Gary, welcome to the Locker Room Chat.
Jay, how you doing? It's great to see you again.
You bet, Gary. So look it, here we go. Let's start out where things always start, Gary, and that'd be the younger years, huh? We have a lot to chat about, but let's start out with your growing years. Parkland, Washington, in the shadows of Pacific Lutheran University. Family certainly was a big part of your life with your brothers and your mom. Why don't you just talk to us a little bit about those early years in Parkland and how they formed who you became?
Yeah, we grew up down on Wheeler Street when I was younger, and then we moved to the area out towards Park Avenue and towards the area where Lincoln High School boundaries were. But I went to Christensen Elementary, and that was kind of a big story. There's a story within a story here about basketball that you need to know. I was a fourth grader going home one day, and I heard basketballs in the cafeteria. And I went in and asked the person who was running I didn't know it was a practice, and said, can I play? And he said, well, what grade are you? I said, fourth grade. He goes, but we don't have fourth graders on the team. We only do fifth and sixth graders. I said, well, can I at least try to play a little bit today? He goes, well, if you get permission from your mom. So I ran home 4 blocks away and got permission slip to play and made the team as a fourth grader, sixth grade team as a fourth grader. That story ties into also Keithley Junior High, where I was in PE class, and I heard Mark and some of the guys talking about practice after school for basketball. And I was playing rec league football, and so I had practice every day after school for that. And I said, wow, I didn't know they were practicing for basketball. I asked Jim Barner, my PE teacher, could I try out for the team? He said, well, we've had 2 to 3 practices already. You come out today, but you probably won't get any looks because we've already had 2 practices and you haven't been there. That day I got selected to go on the 8th grade team as a 7th grader, along with Mark and Jeff Kylo and Jimmy Roshak and Bill Southwell. And that was kind of the start of my career. Last minute Johnny, so to speak, getting to the show, but I made it both ways. And so sports started to become a very important thing in our lives for all of us.
Well, that's amazing. Those are the younger years, certainly. So let's move on to Keithley, Washington High School. A lot of different coaches we know and people, but talk to us just a little bit about those years before we get on to your college years and your coaching career in tennis.
Well, we had an interesting thing at Keithley Junior High because Washington High School was being built our 9th grade year. So we had actually the high school kids at Keithley while the building was being done, and they took their classes with us. So we had high school kids around us all the time. So we knew who the basketball players were and the football players, and we saw them in the hallways and stuff and knew who they were. And we went from there. Keithley Junior High was a great thing. I had to play with the Pierce County hoop shoot champion, and his name's Mark Strickers. He was pretty good. Let me tell you, Mark was a tremendous free throw shooter and a tremendous player for us in our high school days. And I remember I made 23 out of 25 free throws at the hoop shoot. I thought I did pretty well. And Mark walked over and cranked off 24 in a row and won both times. He was really awesome to play with. So we went 27-2 in junior high as a team. And so we had some success early in the going. Jeff Kylo, tremendous athlete, quarterback for the football team at Washington, went to Stanford. And you're just trying to fit in to know what's going on there. Jim Barner was our coach. Dale Shimke was our 8th grade coach. Two gentlemen that really worked on skills, which I thanked Mr. Barner many times for later on when I needed him in high school. But real taskmasters, get the job done, let's go. Kind of a yin and a yang as coaches. Mr. Shimke was really happy-go-lucky, and Mr. Barner was, take the hill, charge, here we go, sergeant, drill sergeant kind of guy. So a little bit different there, but learn from both of them. And we had a great time playing in junior high. Hope to bring that success to high school, but the trouble that happened was we've been playing together since 7th grade, all of us. And Mark and Jeff went up to varsity right away when they got to high school. And Jimmy Roshak and I went to junior varsity, and Bill Southwell went to the C squad team. And we didn't understand that. We thought we were pretty good there and thought we should be able to play. But Coach Ross had a little more insight than we needed to admit to, which was he had Bill play the guard for the C squad team and learn the leadership role. He put me away from Jeff and Mark so that I could learn how to be a player without having to just, their help. And then Mark and Jeff, of course, played varsity that year. They were varsity players all the time. So that was the start of our high school career after junior high. And from there, well, we can talk about junior high or talk about high school later if you want. I don't want to ramble on here too much with stories, but high school was unique because we had a unique situation our senior year with Jeff Kylo. He broke both of his hands in football. He had a little bone in some area. And so he let it be known that after the last football game, he was going to be in a cast for 8 weeks and on both hands. In fact, they did an article on the TNT, them sitting in the bleachers by himself with these casts on, watching us practice. And so Jeff had always been another element to help Mark, who was a guard being chased around with the ball all the time, and a good player to be stopped. Jeff was his kind of help assistant there. Well, without Jeff, we didn't know what was going to happen. So the first game we ever played in high school on our senior year, Mark had a tremendous game. I think he had 28. We beat North Kitsap or something, but nobody else did anything to contribute except pass the ball to him because none of us had really been any varsity players before. And so second game, we played Bethel. And the reason why I talk about this is Jo Lynn, who was Mark's girlfriend at the time, went to Bethel. She was a cheerleader. And so we had a lot of ties with Bethel. And one of our things was we didn't want to lose to Bethel and have Mark have to go back over to Bethel every day and listen to how Bethel beat us in basketball. So we got all fired up and got ready to play. And I think I had a career high 25 or something. Mark had 27. We beat him. And the only thing we remember in the locker room afterwards, we were so happy for Mark. He was never have to hear from the Bethel guys about how they kicked our butt. And so happy for him that he could go over there and save face. That made the day. We didn't care if we won the championship or not, but that was it right there. So we had little weird things like that happen early in our season, but we were pretty good. We finished second, I think, in the league behind Rogers.
Well, that was an era when Washington played in the highest level of basketball, certainly in the state. And as you mentioned, Rogers High School had a great team, took third in the state that year. And I believe the only game Washington lost the second half of the season was to Rogers and maybe a double, triple overtime game. But those are great basketball times for sure. And your JV year, I'm trying to remember, was Gordy Hansen, one of your coaches then, who eventually became your boss at Steilacoom. Is that correct?
That's correct. Gordy was my basketball coach, also my summer baseball coach. So I had him as coaches for that, and he came over to Steilacoom and became the principal there. So I got to work for him for several years doing that. That was really exciting. The JV year was just 1 year, and that was it. After that, we were all brought up to varsity and got ready to get going. But so you bring up that Rogers game. I fouled out in the regulation time period by a charge by a guy who was guarding me, who later became my roommate in college, Ken Query. And And so that was real fun times to listen to all those stories about that during that time. Poor Mark was out there by himself trying to save the boat, but that was just really
Yep.
tough one to
Well,
handle.
it's great competition in that era, certainly in high school basketball. So Gary, here you are. You're a high school basketball star. You got a sense that there's more for you down the road. Tennis is a part of your life. Most people probably think it's basketball. Talk to us a little bit about PLU, why PLU, and how you evolved then from a high school basketball star into going to PLU and being such an integral part of their basketball program, as well as tennis becoming an integral part of your life.
Well, let's touch on tennis first. I turned out for tennis at Washington High School my sophomore year because I heard you could letter in that sport really easy. And I thought I wanted a letterman's jacket, so I better try out. I was on JV that year, number 13 JV player. I mean, it means I sat on the hill and watched everybody play. And as the bus was leaving, I asked the guy if he wanted to hit a couple shots, and that was my whole big playing tennis during 10th grade. My junior year, I made a decision to Gordy Hanson was the baseball coach there too, and he thought I was going to play baseball. And I went to ask him for a permission slip, and he started giving me all the baseball stuff. And I asked him for the tennis stuff, and he was kind of shocked that I was going to do that. But I practiced tennis my junior and decided if I was going to play baseball or tennis my senior year, then I better practice and stuff if I really wanted to play. I was a South Pierce County League singles champion my senior year, and also won the district title and went to state and finished in the final top 10. So I had been playing tennis in high school, and Mike Benson saw me. We talked. He's a coach at PLU. Coach Longard came. It really sealed the deal for me was my mom worked at PLU, and so you get 3/4 tuition off. That kind of sealed the deal for me, better than any scholarship I could get. But the trouble is you had to see your mom every day at lunch and dinner, breakfast, because you worked in the food service. But, that was all right.
Gary, just looking back on it, your family was such a huge part of you growing up, and boy, your mom sure was. She was at every game, every event with you and your brothers, and the Wusterbarth family was just a true strong family in the Parkland community in those days, and I know a big tribute of that goes to your mother and her dedication to her family.
Yeah, my dad worked for Boeing, and then my grandparents both were on their deathbeds, and he had to leave our home and go back and take care of them until they passed away. And that was my senior year of high school. So I really didn't have him around during those times. He flew back a couple times to see me play. That was it. My mom was the main person. You're right. She drove us to any sporting event. She loved sports too. She drove us to sporting events all over the place. We went and watched Bethel win the state title in basketball at UPS. We watched all sorts of slow pitch games and stuff during the summer. She'd take us to let us watch those. All we'd do is ask, and she would drop it, and away we'd go. And without her support, there's no way. When you look at our family, my brother Jim played tennis at PLU, and also started for our high school basketball team with Mark and I. My sister Connie was the singles champion at PLU for the fourth position. My brother Tom went to state in tennis. My brother Steve was a manager and a big-time referee. So we have been involved in sports quite a bit over our careers.
You bet. So let's go on to college. You're at PLU. Basketball is in your life. Obviously, it sounds like tennis certainly is, particularly with your connection with Coach Benson. Gene Lungard, you had G. Ed Anderson, more coaches coming into your life. Talk to us a little bit about your years at PLU in both sports, and a little bit of what you learned and the challenges you had, and how these things helped you become the coach that is going to come into your life here soon.
Well, it's pretty hard to play two sports in college because it's such demanding on your time. We had tennis starting the first day we went to school until about October when I started basketball, and then I left the team and played basketball those months, and then came back like in April and May and started playing tennis again. So for me, it was difficult because I left the team as a freshman. I made it to the singles final of the team tournament. And one of the big things that I liked about POU was they had gone to the national. Well, Ted Carlson had gone to the Nationals as an individual player his junior year, and they had all these guys coming back. So it was a good chance POU was going to make the Nationals if you could get on the team. Well, I started down at number 9 and worked my way up to the number 4 spot, but I had to give up my spot because I was playing basketball.
Yeah.
And so I had to come back in the spring at number 9 and work my way up. I made it to the varsity. I believe it was with 4 weeks to go in the season, and then made it to the league, and then made it to districts, and then made it to the nationals in tennis. And varsity or JV basketball is what we played with. Ed Anderson was our coach, and Dave Harshman was our JV coaches there. And so I was trying to balance both of them at the time and go to school. And I worked at food service as part of my tuition exception. So I had a lot of stuff going on. I played at the time, had to balance a lot of things. Not a lot of time for goofing around, but a lot of time putting the work in and time in. And it worked at tennis, and I found out the first year I could do it. I could balance it out if I was really disciplined. And so I decided I was going to continue to try to do that at POU. POU, I knew where POU was a lot better than any other place because we grew up, 5 blocks away from POU. I used to go run around on their campus. I used to play on their baseball fields. I used to do all the stuff there. So when I went to college, this happened to me about probably 8 years ago. My wife said, I can't believe I went to school. I married a private school person. I went, who went to private school? She goes, you did. You went to POU. And PAU is not private. I mean, that's just the way I treat it. PAU was next door. That's just some place you go and you do stuff. So freshman year when they gave the orientation on how to go around campus, I could lead the orientation around campus.
Yeah.
And so I went there thinking I knew the place. I was comfortable with the place. I was able to settle in. Everything went real well. I do have one quick story. Dan Miller was my roommate. He was from Seattle Prep. He was a guard. His mom passed away right in the start of our season in basketball. So I had to deal with that. As a roommate, be supportive of that and stuff too. That made it real tough, but I was glad to be there. And Dan supported me over the years, and he's a great guy. But that was the first time, find out you're living on your own and somebody else's lives involved with yours besides your brothers and stuff. So that was kind of an interesting concept for me.
Well, I think you did a wonderful job of capturing the shadows of PLU and sports in that community. Because as you know, Bob Ross basketball through the years, Washington high school success, there are just so many athletes in that community that just were always at PLU, always doing things year round, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, tennis. The shadows of PLU was just a huge, huge part of the Washington community, PLU community, certainly in that day.
Well, Jay, if I could mention one thing about PLU, and I'm not saying it's because I'm talking to you. I would tell anybody this. I have told anybody this. But one reason why we were a pretty good basketball team in high school was because of your brother, Mark. He used to go down to PLU and shoot 100 shots and 100 free throws every single day. And he made you feel like if you weren't doing it, you're going to miss out on something. We're going to make the team or something. I remember going down there after work and seeing him shoot around going, you do this every day? Yeah. I said, okay. So I started doing it with him. And then more guys showed up. Then the girls showed up. When the girls showed up, it was all over. I mean, everybody down there playing then. But we played at PLU every day so much. Mark played so much there with all his people that they took down the hoops during the summer because they didn't want us all hanging around on the campus, the high school kids. But even after high school, Mark went down there and worked out all the time and worked out with the Govigs and the Browns and the Rileys and Dennis Johnson, who later became great players at Washington. I think they finished in top 4 in state. That's partly, they followed Mark around like a little leprechaun follows around the pot of gold. And they thought he really knew everything, and he did the workouts, and they did them with him. He was kind of a AAU program for Washington High School back in that time period. he didn't know it and I didn't know it, none of us knew it, but
Yeah.
big factor, big
Yeah.
factor.
Yeah, it was a great community for sports. So here you are, Gary. You've been successful in high school and college, certainly in basketball and tennis. You're graduating. You've got, as you've mentioned, the coaches in your past. You got Dale Shimke, Jim Barner, Gordy Hanson, Bob Ross, Gene Lungard, Anderson, Mike Benson, and others. Now you're going to take that next step in your career. Coaching, how does coaching and teaching become part of something that you want to do? What did you learn from some of these people along the way that was going to ensure that that you would continue with sports being a huge part of your future?
Well, yeah, the work process after coming out of Washington High School and PLU was unique because of the good education that you had. We were very solid. Getting into the coaching part, I actually had been coaching in high school. Let me tell you, I coached a team called the Soignies Loafers. And it was Gwen Soigny and all the girls who did not have a basketball program back in those times. They played rec league Pierce County basketball. And their head coach was Tom Cross, whose daughter, Kara Sue, played on the team. Tom didn't like the coaching part. He would sit there and supervise, but didn't like the coaching part. So he asked me if I would help coach the girls. You want to know a fast way to lose a lot of dates? Coach the girls in your high school while you're going there. Let me tell you something. It's over. It's not going to happen. But I coached the girls. I coached rec league girls from the minute I finished high school until probably a year after college. And I coached Jennifer Gray, 6'10", Jennifer Gray, and some great players, and we had good teams. And so I worked on coaching right then during that time period. And after that, then I got into the school part. It seemed kind of natural. I kind of did some trial and error with girls. It's a little different than coaching boys, but you learn right away how to be sensitive and understanding and all that stuff, which is a big part of coaching in that time period, especially if you're younger. You don't really see that at first. You're into the X and O's and let's go. But that was a big factor. So coaching girls was my first real coaching experience. And I did that for 5 years. And then all of a sudden, what happened is, again, I mean, apologize for telling all these long stories, but I applied for the assistant's job at PLU under Bruce Harrelson, and I got the job. John Meddock, who's the coach at Steilacoom High School, wanted to be a college coach. Bob Ross and Washington High School offered me the JV coach, assistance coach, again, a position I had the year before, all on the same day. And so I had to go in and talk to Bob Ross, and he said, I'm going to be here for a while. Why don't you go coach high school or college, whatever you want to do your playing around, be ready to go. And I said, okay. Had to go to the principal and tell him I'm not going to be here teaching next year. Had to go down to PLU and talk to Dr. Olson, who was the athletic director there, and tell him I wasn't going to coach at PLU, but I knew a guy who wanted to be there. That was John Meddock. I then went and applied for the job at Steilacoom, and I got it. And so that was very unique in what happened. And that all happened in one day. I sat there at lunch. I said, I can't believe this. I've been contacted by 3 different organizations to coach and teach. What am I going to do? I made the choice for Steilacoom. It was the right choice.
So now you're the head basketball coach at Steilacoom High School. Steilacoom's coming off of a pretty good success.
Defending state champions.
Yes, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be the guy. So tell us about your philosophy, how you're going to go about coaching, inspiring, discipline, as well as leading high school kids as became so successful for you as time went by.
Well, John Meddock and I were friends. I actually was sitting right behind him when he won the state title the first year with Steilacoom. I'd watched some of the teams and stuff, and we had talked about some stuff there. So I knew all the guys, and and they were all juniors. They're going to come back to their senior year. Some were sophomores, and I really saw it as an opportunity to jump in there and create a whole team atmosphere, something unique, different that they had the year before. Because kids get bored after a while if you're doing the same thing over and over again. So what we did was we talked about having a team of 10, 12 total guys ready to play anytime, any place. We did a lot of subbing like that during the season, kept guys fresh, and worked on that. I think there's supposed to be pressure with that job. I didn't feel it because it was my first year, and I was so busy trying to learn how to coach that I wasn't really observing the fact that some people are pretty serious that I better not lose the state championship again this year, or better not lose it at all. I remember one time I was cornered in the restroom by a couple of the staff members and said to me, "You're not going to sub and put all those guys in the game like you did during the season, are you?" And I said, "Why not?" And they said, "Because you better not lose the state championship. These guys are a good team. They could win it." That was the first time I ever realized there was any pressure to coaching or anything. I thought I just went out and coached the fellas and had the banquet and enjoyed everything as it went. So that was unique in that situation. But I just sat down and set my goals, what I wanted to teach the kids and what I wanted to do. And then we went from there and seemed to work out all right.
Well, it sure did seem to work out all right. A full career is the head coach at Steilacoom High School. Gary, I've got down 567 wins. I might be short a few there. The Squally League champions, state champions. What a phenomenal career that you certainly had there with your years. How many years were my wins total correct there? Any
I
other
don't know about
reflections you
the
have?
wins and losses. It's somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 34 years. That's still
Well, that certainly is a career, Gary, and congratulations on such a wonderful career. Let's talk a little bit about tennis officiating. We know there's been a lot of officiating success within Tacoma and Pierce County and all kinds of sports. I think you might be the only person that's taken tennis officiating to the level that certainly that you took it. Your inspiration to get involved in officiating tennis, high school, college, amateur, how this works up to become a chair umpire, a line umpire on court, and the great success that you had in officiating tennis.
well. We went to nationals during college each year, and I was fortunate enough to play with Dave Tregeser. He's my doubles partner. We made it to the round of 16 in the national finals. And so I kind of thinking about going pro. I went on the American Express circuit for about 3 months and realized that there's a better way to make an income than hit tennis balls over the net because I wasn't doing a very good job at that. But during that time, there had been bids put out for Davis Cup and for World Team Tennis that Billie Jean King was setting up with her husband and stuff. And so they needed some referees or some officials in the Tacoma area or in the Seattle area to have them available if those places got teams professionally. So on a Saturday they held a tryout with the guy that was the head of officials from the USTA. His name was Rocky. He was a drill sergeant in the military before he became the linesman coach. And we went down on a Sunday afternoon, and Rocky laid out what he was going to do, that there's going to be 9 people picked from this tryout to officiate tennis. And so I was one of the ones that was selected. Rich Kaufman and Fran McDowell were 2 Northwest people that were big time officials, chair umpires and stuff, that we were kind of following their lead on what to do and stuff. They kind of paved the way for us and kept us abreast of what was going on and what to do and how to go with that. And so I was selected to do the Davis Cup between Australia and the United States down in Portland. And that was kind of the first big thing they did because Rocky, when you get into tennis, if you get a long line to call, that's usually the easiest job. The toughest job is the service line, obviously, because of speed and stuff, and then the baseline. Well, the first day we were all stuck on long lines because we were rookies. But the second day, McEnroe was playing, and so was Connors. They were both playing singles. And Rocky walked into the locker room and said, "You're doing the service line." He's pointing at me. And I hadn't done the service line in quite a long time. So I went to the bathroom, almost threw up, and then got ready to go and went out there and I did okay. And that kind of advanced me on because if Rocky said you were good to go anywhere you wanted to. So I qualified for the US Open, did Federation Cup up in Canada, and did several Davis Cups and stuff. And then I officiated the World Team Tennis and any other tennis events that came in Seattle. I was one of the officials to do those items.
Well, Gary, it's just an incredible story there of starting out and moving up. I don't want to say quickly, obviously it was earned because your mentors felt that you could do it, but with those people playing the game, here you are, a local Tacoma guy. Did you ever pinch yourself or say, oh my goodness gracious, because you had to have some ice in your veins to make calls at that level with just anybody would, but particularly, going, hey, I'm a Tacoma kid here. Tennis has been great. I've always loved it. But here I am at the highest level on the planet Earth with tennis.
It was humbling, I'll tell you that. One of the things that really carried over from basketball was in the officiating world, and you know this too, Jay, you would meet guys who knew you were official and they knew whether you were good or not. If you were good, they were comfortable, they didn't bother you, they coached the game. It was the guys that didn't know you who were always on your butt, getting on you, screaming, all that stuff. My big thing was I always took the court to prove to the players I was worthy to be there. And I didn't want them worrying about my calls and stuff being part of the action. People always go, well, how'd you do with McEnroe? How'd you do with Connors? I didn't have a lot of problems with those guys, but I also knew what I was doing. I did the right thing and didn't make mistakes. You want to make John McEnroe uncomfortable? Tell him I'm doing the service line for the first time ever in my life while he's playing, and he'll be on the chair's butt every minute of every play. But that was a humbling experience for me to be able to do all that stuff with these great players at the time. I was fortunate enough to be there towards the end of Rod Laver's career and stuff, and then through the Borg and the Connors and the McEnroes, and ended up with Pete Sampras being one of the new guys that I saw before I retired.
Just incredible. I mean, I've got some names. You tell me if I'm wrong. Anybody else? You said McEnroe, Connors, beyond Borg, Lendl.
Yeah.
Any of the ladies? Did you work with any of the ladies tournaments?
Everett, Navratilova, Betty Stova, Steffi Graf. Oh, I don't know. I can't remember all of them.
Amazing.
Billie Jean King and Margaret Court.
Yeah. I believe you have some kind of a story about young Pete Sampras when you were officiating.
Well, one of the things that happens is if you work a night crew, which is you go on at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you can be there till 3 o'clock in the morning. You've seen some of those matches on TV where, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, we're still here. Well, so were the refs. And so if you worked a night shift, you come in the next day and do a out on court 27. Of course, the further you go out, the less people there are around. And you would get warmed up by doing a court 27, and then you work your way back into the main stadium by the end of the day. Well, when you're on court 27, you're doing qualifying stuff and things like that. And this guy didn't show up for a match. And so they get what they call a lucky loser. You lost, but your name was drawn out of the hat to play. And all of a sudden, this guy comes out and starts hitting balls. And as a tennis official, on especially the baseline, which I was doing that day, you get a range of about where the ball is going to land most of the time, just how they warm up and stuff. Well, this guy was hitting like 3 inches away from the line. I go, God dang, this is going to be hard. This guy's going to be hitting near the line. I have to pay attention every single second today. And afterwards, he won. I walked over and said, who is that guy? And they go, well, that's Pete Sampras. I said, who's that? He goes, yeah, he's an 18-year-old kid. He's an up-and-comer. Might want to watch him. And I thought, wow. When I saw his career, I thought, geez, should be a little bit more excited to do that match that day on court 27, but I was so tired from the night before. I just kind of went through the motions and did it. Now I don't care who we're doing it to go officiate, but no, yeah, saw Pete play and said, guys, I've seen somebody that's going to be good. I don't know who he is, but he hit the ball right where it needed to be, real close and sharp, but good player. Wow.
Well, it's just amazing to watch tennis, that era certainly, and the skills those players have, and the grueling time on the court, and the exertion of every muscle in your body, and the egos, Gary, enormous egos. Back in the day, tennis was kind of a gentlewoman sport, and people adhered to calls. What you're talking about here, it was some of those enormous egos, and the need for every call to go their way, no matter if it was actually should have been that way or not. But what did you do to tell yourself, or the confidence you grew up with, that knew you could be on the court at that level, officiating the absolute best tennis players on the planet Earth?
Well, the one thing I remember is that's their job. So that's their living, their livelihood. You've got to be sharp for that. One other player, one time I was in the chair and they walked by and said, hey, don't give up your day job. You think
Yeah.
about, oh, well, good point. I just better pay attention here, but just ready to go. They're very serious. Professional level is not a joke around time. It's not a fool around time. Although I think I saw a picture of Chris Everett and Navratilova, and I were goofing around because I flipped the coin toss to see who was going to serve, and the coin started rolling away down the court. So we were chasing after it. And so the picture you saw there was me stomping on the coin and Chris calling heads, and we're trying to see what it is, but it took like 20 seconds as we followed this coin around as it was trying to settle in for the there it is right there. Chris won the coin flip. Navratilova was stepping on the coin right there, and I was going, we finally got it, and she started laughing. We thought it was going to be a while. You can have moments like that, but when it's time to start playing, you got to get serious. You got to be ready to go. And like I said, I always thought about how I felt when I knew I had good officials on the basketball court. It was a very calming thing to be able to go out and just coach the game, not have to worry about them missing a call or not doing the right thing. And so I just always want to make sure I was sharp and ready to go with that and work from there.
Well, you certainly had a philosophy that you developed, I think, through officiating tennis, and that did permeate into to how you handle yourself as a coach with officials. We know there's kind of a built-in competitiveness, or a difference between officiating and coaching, but you had a wonderful philosophy about that, Gary. Anything more you could say about officials, officiating? We know there's some enormous challenges now at all levels of officiating, particularly in high school, getting officials out. Anything you can help us with their thoughts about officials officiating?
Well, for the tennis officiating part, I'm out of the action now. They've gone to computers and stuff, which we saw them doing a long time ago. The first time they were trying to experiment, they used a traffic light. Red if it was out, green if it was in, and yellow if it was too close to call. And they had it wired up to some court. We were watching them do it, and the light would come on, red or green or whatever. So stupid. But so that part of officiating is taken out of your hand. Now you're either a chair umpire or you're not anything, because they have the lines all covered. For high school basketball and basketball itself, I've always respected the officials. No one's going to be perfect. I know we always say that, but no one's going to be perfect. Jay, you were an awesome referee. I'm sure you made a mistake once in a while. And I'm sure that you tried your best each time to do the right thing, but you can't be perfect. And if you're going to sit there and worry about that all the time, you're not going to enjoy the games very much. I always let the refs ref the game. I'm going to coach the game. I thought about the fact that I would ask my parents not to interfere when I was coaching, same way a referee would ask me not to interfere while they're reffing. And so I always had the utmost respect for officials. My brother was one. I was one. And without them, you can't play. So why are you sitting there yelling and screaming at them to get out of the gym? They leave the gym, you're going home.
Yeah.
So I could never figure out why people would do that. I always respected that. And I will say this, that there's times where you disagree, but that's the part of the game.
Yeah.
And you did a great job officiating. I enjoyed watching you, and I learned some things from you about just knowing you and then watching your actions on the field, how differently your personality was in terms of being very, very stout and precise in what you were doing your job professionally. Mark, your brother, did a great job, although I, never got a chance to thank him a lot on the court. You don't really thank referees while they're working the job, but he worked so hard, especially with, his physical needs of the knees and stuff, to still stop the ref in the day, enjoying the game. It's a
Amen.
game. And so I just tried to keep those things in mind. I'm very fortunate. I had Frosty Westering as a teacher while I was at POU, and I grew up with Brad and Scott very well at their house a lot. So I got a lot of Frostyisms in me when my coaching career started, and it paid off.
Well, if Frosty helps you get into coaching, and if Tom Cross helps you get into coaching, you can't do a whole bunch better than that, certainly. But we know sports are tremendously emotional, particularly if you have a child or somebody close to your family. But the old adage, and you addressed it, let the players play, let the coaches coach, let the officials officiate. If we're always that simple, it'd be better, and it's not. But there's a real role to respect everyone involved in the game, players, coaches, and officials, certainly.
Well, people will tell you, I paid for my ticket, I can do what I want. No, you paid for your ticket to have an opportunity to watch this event. That's what you paid your ticket for. And not people have to realize that from time to time. That if you enjoy what your son's doing and your daughter's doing and not worry about the officiating, you enjoy the game a lot more. And I had my daughters who played tennis and water polo and swimming and stuff through the ranks. And so I do know what it's like to be a parent of a sports person. And that comes with the territory. You just got to do the job. You sat there, you guys had to sit and watch us get all beat up over in high school and stuff with games. And your brother Mark, he was a marked man out there on the court. So you guys had a lot of stuff to have to deal with in terms of people trying to guard him, double team him, get rid of the ball, and stuff like that. And all parents go through that. We want the best for our kids, the best things to let them play.
Amen. Well, Gary, you've had many, many honors. Washington Interscholastic Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame, Frosty Westering Coaching Excellence Award, WIBCA Hall of Fame, National High School Basketball Coaches Association Court of Honor. Great, I guess recognition of what you have done throughout the years here and in your career and at Steilacoom High School in the Great Northwest. You mentioned your family just a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your family? We've already addressed the fact that the strong family you certainly grew up with. Tell us about your family that's always around you right now a little bit.
Well, my wife Sandy and I met at Steilacoom High School. She was an English teacher, and I was a science or social studies teacher, so that worked out real well. We had two daughters. Megan played water polo and swam for Rogers High School, and she works for the Washington State Fishery and Game in Olympia during this time. My youngest daughter played tennis at Rogers High School, and she is let's see if I get it right now, computer programmer stuff. I don't know all those terms about she works on the computer and helps set up programs and stuff for agencies and stuff like that. I think it makes her a computer programmer, I believe. Not to sound ignorant, but I don't know a lot about this. It's amazing I'm even on here today, to be honest with you. But my other extended family, my brother Jim, all my family members are alive except for my mother died see, right before my last year of coaching. And so and my father passed away 3 years before that. So she didn't see me retire and that, but big influence, both of them in our family and what we did. And I just enjoyed watching my daughters participate. I've always told people that I see who my kids playing sports now, I go watch them play and work with them. What I always say, look, every day when they come off the court, tell them it's fun to watch them play. Don't say anything about wins and losses. Just that was fun to watch you play today. And you'll be surprised what a response you'll get from them about their playing time and stuff like that. But yeah, family's doing well. I've got 2 acres to work on the land here. I do miss the coaching part of the game at some points, but other times I don't. When I was in Hawaii, I didn't miss it very much, but I do miss watching some of the games. And around playoff time, I get the itch about wanting to coach again, but my days were there and I enjoyed it. Tremendous coaches, kids, and parents who want to see their kids be successful. I was a very lucky guy.
Well, so very well stated, Gary. Tell the kids it was fun to watch you play. That's a great statement. We know family has always been a huge, huge part of you and your life, and always will be. Before we finish up, what keeps Gary Wusterbarth busy nowadays? You watch basketball, tennis on TV? Do you have things that are driving your life? Tell us what keeps Gary busy nowadays.
When I retired, I said I owe my wife 34 summers of vacation after doing summer league and all that stuff. And that's true, I do. So we travel. We're getting ready to go to Alaska here pretty quick on a excursion. I have 2 acres of land, and so that keeps me pretty busy working around on the property and that. Let's see, what else am I doing? Oh, I am still working with the national and the state organization for coaches and stuff like that. So I'll be going back to Nashville in July for the national meeting. We just wrapped up our state one here last week, and we'll be getting ready to put on an event here coming up with the future stars of state of Washington in basketball. Other than that, I just keep working on my treatment stuff. The need to retire was kind of forced upon me in respect of a schedule of what I had for an operation because of Parkinson's, that I had to drop and stop coaching sooner than I wanted to, but it was the right thing to do. And it's extended my life, I'm sure, longer than I would be lucky for. So I'm going to appreciate it, move from there. But other than that, just living every day and loving life.
Gary, thank you so much for chatting with us today. And thank you, especially for the thrills that you brought to so many during your playing days, your teaching and coaching days, your tennis officiating days, and your support of athletics locally here in Tacoma and Pierce County. This concludes today's edition of the Locker Room Chat, brought to you by the Tacoma Pierce County Sports Museum. If you have suggestions for future interviews or have memorabilia that you would like to donate to the museum, please contact us at mhblau@comcast.net. That would be mhblau, BLAU@comcast.net, or at 253-677-2872. I'll do that once more, 253-677-2872. And let them know that you heard about us on the Locker Room Chat. And Gary, again, thank you so very much for joining us and for allowing us to highlight the life and times of Gary Wusterbarth. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Jay. It's a pleasure being there.